Welcome to Our Health Inheritance. I'm Liz, and this is my way of sharing my story because I feel like we all have a story to share and that we can all learn from each other's stories. So I've gotten everyone through a big part of my story, which was my path through genetic counseling, genetic testing, and then taking action to do a prophylactic bilateral mastectomy after testing positive for the BRCA2 gene mutation. Then I went on and did reconstruction as well as an oophorectomy. So if you haven't seen any of my posts, there's quite a few ahead of this that explain that whole process. But I've gotten, the story to that point. So now I want to talk about a newer challenge that I've been facing for the past almost 2 years. And this is not something that's genetic, I don't believe, whereas, all of my breast cancer and ovarian cancer concerns were genetic. This doesn't appear to be that. But it started probably in about 2003. I thought what I had at the time was Bell's palsy, which is like you wake up and half of your face is just sort of paralyzed. That lasted for about a month, and I had to wear an eye patch because my eye wouldn't close all the way, wouldn't seal shut. It was, very stressful, but a friend of mine had had Bell's palsy in high school, and she recovered from it, so I really wasn't all that concerned. I just figured, okay, this is going to get better, and I moved forward. Then, about maybe 2 or 3 years later, I was at a pet store here locally, and I frequented that store all the time because my two boxers were like my life at the time. And I was signing my receipt, buying some dog food, signing my name, and I couldn't write my name. I tried. My hand and my brain just weren't connecting. And the owner of the pet store knew me well, and he sat me down on a big stack of dog food and, made sure I was okay. And I collected myself. Eventually, I got up and was able to sign the receipt. And then I walked to my car. And as I was walking, my right leg just kind of dipped out from underneath me. And, I kind of stumbled. I caught myself, and it happened again. So I sat in my car. It was actually my birthday, so June 28th. And actually, the Bell's palsy, ironically, was also right after my birthday, but, years before. So both incidents happened right at the end of June, early July. And I called my dad and said, this is what just happened. And he said, you need to go to the ER right now. You could be having a stroke. So I did. I went to the ER and they did all the tests and, checked everything out and said, we can't find anything. You seem totally normal. And I said, well, my leg's still doing this. And so they referred me to a neurologist and we continued to do tests and everything checked out. And after about a month, I noticed one day, hey, my leg hasn't done that in a while. It's not dipping out from underneath me anymore. So, and the tests that they did primarily were like an MRI of my brain. They did, I think, even a CAT scan. But they did not do an MRI of my spine. And looking back, I think that's probably what should have happened based on what that symptom was. But, they did what they could and didn't find anything. So, fast forward to a few years later, I had some numbness in my arm and it just continued to spread. It started with like tingling and like a sunburn feeling, and then eventually my arm was numb. And I, went to the doctor and got it checked out, back to a neurologist. They couldn't find anything wrong. So this pattern just kept repeating. I would get vertigo. I would, I just like, I would jump out of bed because every morning I sort of, once I'm finally awake, I just leap up and go about my day. Well, I'd jump up and just fall to the side, and that was not normal. But, we pushed through. I just thought, okay, that's not normal, but whatever, I must be really tired. Well, it happened, every day for a couple weeks. And after a while, after a couple times, I just taught myself to get up, sit on the edge of my bed for a little bit, get my bearings, and then slowly get out of bed. So I'm here adjusting my normal way of being to this weird symptom that I'm having, but I was sort of tired of going to the doctor, to be honest, and getting kind of written off. So I didn't go to the doctor. I just continued on with life, and things would happen like literally every few years. It just happened here and there. um, until almost 2 years ago. So it was early June 2023. No, I'm so sorry, 2024. Early June 2024. I had hit my stress limit. I always talk about how I can compartmentalize really well. I feel like it's a skill that I've developed. So I don't really get super stressed out. At least I don't think I do. But I just compartmentalize. So I'm going to hyper focus on this. I'm going to get it done. Then I'm going to switch to this and get that done. And I can handle a lot of things and juggle a lot of things. It's just something I'm skilled at. So I, at that point, sort of ran out of compartments. I just hit a wall. And it was the silliest thing that pushed me over. It was, my daughter was at her ballet recital photos, and I realized suddenly I forgot to remove her nail polish before she went to have pictures. And ballet instructors can be very strict, as most people probably know. And if I had just told her she couldn't wear nail polish and she could have removed it herself, but I didn't, because I just kind of held everything and sort of tried to just do everything. It's just my way. So I kind of had a little bit of a meltdown. She's already there. She's at her pictures. Oh my gosh, she's going to get in trouble. It's all my fault. And, I didn't want her teacher to yell at her. So I just had a bit of a mini breakdown, right? Just started crying and jumped in the car and drove to the ballet recital, or excuse me, photos. I got to the recital photos and everything was fine. The instructor didn't mention the nails. My daughter looked at me kind of strangely, like, why are you here? I just waved, and the instructor said hi, and everything was fine. So I had totally overreacted. It was fine. And then I was also supposed to head to my nephew's high school graduation that evening. But I had taken a detour to run down there to check on, make sure the nail polish thing was fine. And it was. So then I got in the car and I was going to drive to Napa from Sacramento to go to his graduation. And when I got in the car, I realized that my vision was off and I just couldn't focus well. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to drive to Napa right now. My eyes were just really, I don't even know how to explain it. It just was not normal. So I did end up driving home. It was a short distance. I got home, but it was not super easy. I had to constantly change my focus and, keep my sight top of mind. And I got home and I just basically went to bed. I was just so tired. I didn't feel well. My vision, I felt horrible for missing my nephew's graduation. That was a big part of it, was just a lot of guilt. But I just crashed. I just went to bed, crashed. And I woke up the next morning and I couldn't even see what was on my phone. I picked up my phone like I usually do to turn off my alarm, take a look, what time it is and whatnot, and I couldn't read anything on my phone. My vision was shot. So I still got out of bed, went and got the dogs, took them in the backyard, but very off balance, stumbling, just trying to push forward and figuring it'll resolve itself. I'm probably just really tired. And so I took the dogs outside. I was feeling nauseous and off balance, and I would be okay with my vision if I closed one eye. So I did. I closed one eye. I scooped their poop, got them back in the house, fed them, and just sort of got through my morning. I work from home, thankfully. And so then I went to my office after getting ready, and the whole time just kind of functioning with one eye open. And I got to my car, or excuse me, my desk, and continued to work that day. And I remember my boss telling me hey, you don't feel well. You should probably just take the day off. And I'm like, no, I can't, because that was another part of it, was that she was about to go on vacation, and I felt there's a lot of responsibilities on my shoulders, I'm putting it on my shoulders, right? But I felt the responsibility, and I did not want to miss work. There was not the right time to be sick, and so I just pushed through. And I went ahead and worked the whole day, literally with one eye. I just kept closing one eye, and then I would close the other eye, and I just got through the day. But I was so exhausted by the end of that day, and I felt so nauseous. It just kept getting worse. So, but literally 5:30 hit, I went to my bed, and I don't think I got out for days. That was just the tip of the iceberg. So I get through that day, go to bed. I'm telling my partner, how I've been feeling and how sick I am, and I can't get up, I can't function. And of course, he's didn't even know because I was pushing forward, pushing through, and just sort of acting like everything was normal. But once I revealed to him what was going on, of course, I didn't get out of bed for quite a few days. I had to call in sick. I felt horrible about it. I actually thought maybe I had vertigo, so I just went to the chiropractor. And I mean, I couldn't even stand, I couldn't function at all. If I was laying flat, it didn't even help, because usually with vertigo, I read that if you lay like flat or on your side, there's like ways you can lay that will alleviate it, and nothing was working. But I thought, hey, I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to go to a chiropractor who I trust, great guy. So I did, and he did an adjustment on me, and it did, like, was a crazy adjustment, like it was intense. But what he noticed, he said, I don't think you have vertigo. He said, your eyes are doing some weird things. He's like, one of your eyes is just not tracking. The other eye is, one eye is not. And I thought, okay, that's weird, but whatever. So hopefully this adjustment's going to help. Vertigo will stop. So I went home, and it did not improve. It got worse, if nothing else. So then the next morning, I was brushing my teeth, and I went to spit the toothpaste out. And I remembered the feeling from 2003 when I had Bell's palsy, or thought I had Bell's palsy, and I was unable to spit, because that was one of the symptoms, that if you pucker, you just can't, like, only half of your face is puckering and half the face is not. So I tried to spit the toothpaste out. I noticed that only half of my face was really awake. And that's when I thought, okay, maybe I should get seen. Maybe I should go to the doctor. Because at that point I thought, my face is drooping, and it was. I did some tests to see, yes, it was. I tried to smile, and only half of my face smiled. So I just basically went to the emergency room, and they treated me like a stroke case, and they put me through. He said, I don't think you're having a stroke. He said, but I'm going to push you through as if you are, because we can get all the things streamlined, right into the CAT scan machine, right into the MRI machine. They after the MRI was done, she said, hey hon, I'm going to put you back in just with contrast. And I thought, well, why? Did you see something? Because at first when she put me in, she goes, we're just going to do a quick MRI. Well, when she took me out, she looked at the screen, she came back and had said that, like, we're going to put you back in, and we're going to inject you with contrast. And I said, well, why? What did you see? She goes, oh, hon, I don't know how to read these things. I'm just going to go ahead and do that just to make sure they have all the information they need. I knew in my head that was not true. I knew she knew how to read those things. I just knew she wasn't allowed to reveal anything to me. So we did that. I went back to my hospital bed. They ended up admitting me, and I just waited, and I didn't know what was wrong. I knew I wasn't having a stroke. I knew I didn't have a brain tumor. So those were the two things I was most afraid of, I guess. And I just sat and waited. So eventually, the doctor came in and just sat down next to me and said something I was totally not prepared to hear. And she said, you have multiple sclerosis. And I just sat there in shock and disbelief. And I think the first thing I said was, are you sure? So you think I might? And she goes, no, hon, you definitely do. And she said, you have scarring all through your brain and your spine. And I thought, because they did actually end up doing, not the entire spine, but they did like my brain and the upper spine. And I was just in disbelief. I think the first question I kind of asked after that was, am I going to be in a wheelchair? And she said, we are going to keep you doing the things you love to do. And I said, but I have a horse, like I ride horses. And she said, we're going to keep you doing the things you love to do. And she said, multiple sclerosis, advancements have been huge over the last 10 years. There's a lot we can do with medication, and I don't want you to think, you have a death wish. I don't want you to think you're going to end up in a wheelchair. We will keep you doing the things you love to do. And, tears streaming down my face, I still just absorbed what she said and kind of clung to that, but not really knowing anything. And I couldn't see. I mean, I was literally in a dark hospital room because my vision was so messed up. I was so nauseous. I was just, the lesion that was active at the time was in my brainstem. So it was affecting so many things. It was not just vision, not just my face, not just the imbalance, and it was, numbness in my leg and my arm. And I mean, it was just like crazy. I had all kinds of symptoms happening all at once. And so I just sat there in a dark room. I couldn't look at my phone. I couldn't Google anything to try to see what this is. Like, what is multiple sclerosis? I don't know. I was just not in the space to probably even hear it all. I just sat with it. And I called my partner and told him what they had just shared with me. He was, I think at the time, was picking up our daughter from school, or was, I can't remember. It was June, so maybe she was out of school, but she had some activity, so he wasn't there when they walked in. And then I called my dad and my siblings, and just kind of told them what I had not expected to hear. So that was almost 2 years ago, and it was a lot. It's been a lot. People look at me, and you probably on most days you couldn't tell that anything's different for me. And that's what I told my daughter when I had to share the information with her is, I didn't want her to worry. I said, look, I've probably had this for 20 years. And did you ever notice like anything was particularly wrong with me? And she shook her head no. And I said, so yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I think I have to make some adjustments in life, and you might have to take on some more responsibilities because I need to manage my stress. And you're at an age now, she was almost 12 at the time, actually almost 13 at the time. And I said, you can start taking on some more responsibilities for yourself so that I can step back a little bit and manage my stress better, because stress is definitely a trigger for me, and that's what activated my lesion. And my and all of my flare-ups are generally, I notice, because I do have continued flare-ups of old lesions, particularly this one. And when I get too much on my plate, when I push too hard, I have a flare-up. And it's really just a matter of managing my stress. That is, or if I get sick, or, I mean, there's a lot of things that will trigger it. Heat is also a thing. So that's why I mentioned that a lot of the incidents I had were over the years were in June or July or in the summer, because heat is actually a trigger as well. So still learning a lot about multiple sclerosis. It's most people call it MS. So yeah, I just it's a lot. It's a new challenge, but I am on a medication, and it's been mostly stable thanks to that medication. But the medication has also caused, there are side effects of medication, so that's caused some other challenges. But right now, I'm almost 2 years in, and I'm still riding my horse. I'm still doing the things I love to do. I'm still running my child and all her friends around, which is one of my happiest things to do. I just love being around her and her friends, and taking them here and there, and going to her games and her track meets and all of her tournaments. Just, I love my job. It is a high stress job, so I have to also adjust the way I approach work, but it's not easy to change your whole way of being, making adjustments, not even realizing that the things that I'm just used to doing can be too much. And that's where I'm at, really trying to make those modifications. And it's a work in progress. I need reminders, and my partner will often tell me, hey, you've done a lot today, like you're about to go and do more. I think maybe you should sit and rest. And then I'm have to realize, like, you know what, he's right. And half the time I still don't, but I'm like, well, let me just finish this one last thing, but I'm learning that I've got to do it. I've got to make it more of a priority. And it's really hard. It's really hard because I want to do everything, and I have a lot of things in my life that are important, I was talking about how my happy place is at the barn, and that's where I recharge with my horse and or my pony, and that's where I exhale. But I also realized I have a lot of happy places, and that's not the only one. So being at track meets is a happy place. Being at a volleyball tournament is a happy place. Being at a family event is a happy place. Being at dinner with my girlfriends or going shopping, like all those are happy places. And hanging out with my partner and doing things with him, it's like that's my happy place too. So I want to do it all and I want to experience all of my happy places. But there's just not enough hours in the day sometimes. And I've got to wrap my brain around that and how to make adjustments. And actually, working is my happy place too. I really do love what I do. I love my job. I love people. I love meeting new people and being out and about and going to client visits and going to networking events. Like all of that is what I would so miss. If I took out any of those happy places, I would really be, mourning that. So I just have to figure it out. I mean, my health is the most important thing. If I'm have one more new lesion, it could change everything for me. I don't know. That's the thing. It's like a ticking time bomb. So another huge stressful event could cause a new lesion, and that could be something that I don't recover from, or it makes my life a lot harder, and maybe it does prevent me from doing some of the things I love to do, and I just don't want to get there. So that's my I wouldn't say my latest challenge, but it's a huge one. So I'll stop there, and if you know anyone that's been going through this, even if it's not MS, but just someone who's trying to figure out how to manage, reducing stress and kind of adjusting your entire world to do so, help. Give me your ideas, give me your suggestions, because changing your lifelong patterns of behavior is really, really hard. So, yeah, micro changes have been happening, but I've got to probably make some bigger changes, and I've just got to wrap my brain around how to do that and which changes to make. So, thanks for listening to Our Health Inheritance, and I'd love to hear more of your experiences and feedback if you guys have suggestions. So please weigh in.